Excellent. Well, hello, everyone. Really great to see all the different people joining from different places. And thank you to Anton and the SendPulse team for having me today. I'm super excited to be able to take you through this topic. We're going to do probably about 20-30 minutes of conversation, and then we'll take some time for questions at the end. So, as Anton said, our topic for today is to talk about AI and the modern marketer. How is it redefining roles, and how is it redefining strategies? Now, as you heard from my background, I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Udemy. For those of you who are not familiar with Udemy, as Anton mentioned, we're an online learning platform. We have the honor of having over 70,000 instructors like Anton who are teaching our 70 million learners and 16,000 organizations, everything from AI and AWS to yoga and well-being. In terms of my background, in addition to being a CMO, I'm a mom, I'm a learner, I'm a dreamer, and I'm a believer. So I'm super excited to be able to be here with you today. Now, if we talk about AI and why AI, there was a great stat that I saw the other day that said 91% of marketers rely on AI for their current jobs. They're looking at AI in all different ways. And why are they doing that? Well, normally it comes down to productivity. That is by far the big one in terms of why people are looking at AI. They want to be more productive. They want to be able to save time. They want to be able to be more effective. Now, if we talk about being productive, there are many different ways in which you can actually build out productivity. So before I talk about AI and how it's really impacting all the different roles, I want to talk a little bit more about the 5 ways to get more done. And this is actually courtesy of another one of our instructors on the platform, Chris Croft. So when you think about your day, there are inputs and there are outputs. Most of the time, there are way more inputs than there are outputs. I know that is how I feel. So when we think about the 5 different ways to get things done, the first thing you can do is you can just say no to things. Task comes in, you can say, no, I'm not going to do it. The next thing you can do is maybe you can negotiate with that person. Okay, I need a new blog created. Okay, I can't do it today. I can do it at the end of the week for you. Now, before we get to the third phase, there is a little bit more of a phase in between. You can say yes and then don't do it. Now, often I sometimes feel like I fall into this trap. I say I'm going to do it. I'll do it by the end of the week. The end of the week comes. I didn't get it done. So none of us really want to be in that position. So then you can think about, okay, well, if you've got maybe a team, how do you delegate? How do you leverage the other resources that are around you? The fourth area that we're here to talk about today, which is really where I think there's a huge amount of opportunity, is automation and AI. This is where AI really, really does help. It helps hit that productivity goal. It helps us being able to say yes more, and it helps empower us. The other last option is essentially you could do it, but you could do it less well and maybe be a little bit less fussy. Sometimes that's okay, but I don't know about all of you. When I do things, I like to do it at 110%. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And hopefully, if we can leverage AI and automation, your day is going to be a lot happier. You're going to have a lot more output. Maybe it won't equal the amount of input, but hopefully we'll get you to have a stronger balance. So how are we going to talk about AI? Well, I thought, you know what, why use a little bit of an analogy, a metaphor, if you will? Why not use some visuals? At the end of the day, we know that 30% of learners actually prefer visuals. You retain more information when there's a visual aid. So in the spirit of this presentation, I would say 90% of the visuals have been created with AI. We're going to take you through the royal flush of using AI to master modern marketing. And we're going to start off with the ACE, audience segmentation and enriched data. As with any good marketing strategy, you know that the key thing is defining your ICP, your ideal customer profile. Who are the key people that you want to be able to get to? How are you going to segment your market? How are you going to make sure that you are identifying the right audience? And it's the foundation of any great marketing strategy. Now, when it comes to how AI is changing the role of segmentation and the role of audience enrichment, it's really about the marketer's role becoming more of a data strategist and an ethical guardian, essentially guiding the AI to create micro-personalization at scale. AI gives us immense power to be able to not just personalize, but personalize at scale. So before AI, segmentation was basic, right? Typically, we use demographic factors, age, income, location. But with AI, segmentation can now tap into the behavioral and psychographic data, pulling insights from lots of different interactions. We can leverage first-party data, we can leverage third-party data, we can look at purchasing behaviors, or even things like the tone of engagement. So AI can now help us to identify segments down to the micro preferences and predict what is going to resonate best with each members of the different group that you've identified. So when it comes to leveraging AI, yes, on the right-hand side, you'll see there are different tools that you can use. These are just 3 examples. But what I really want to focus on is actually what are the underlying skills that you need? Because as we all know, technology only gets you so far. So 3 key skills that you need to learn in order to be able to use the ACE of audience segmentation and enriched data with AI. The first is building the skill around things like clustering algorithms. How are you going to identify the different clusters? How are you going to identify the different segments? How are you going to identify and pull all the different pieces of data together? The second is data analysis, obviously. Once you've got the data, how are you going to use it? How are you going to use it in real time? And the third is communication skills. And this one's critically important because at the end of the day, if you use these tools, these AI-powered tools to do more sophisticated data analysis, data segmentation, if you can't communicate the insights that you're finding, then the value is pretty limited and you won't be able to tap into the true power of AI. Now, the next one that I want to talk about is the king. Well, the king, a lot of people say the king of marketing is content creation. So the king is all about authority and influence in marketing, as we all know. So AI can really empower you to create engaging, influential content way faster than ever before. Just think about it. Think about, okay, before, if you were creating that ICP, the ideal customer profile document, to influence your audience segmentation, that maybe used to take you a few hours, maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks. Now you can create that in a matter of seconds. Will it be perfect? No, it won't, but it will get you there a lot quicker. The other thing that AI is going to be able to help you to do, and a really great use case for it, is actually looking at how AI can help you create a more omnipresent strategy. So making sure that you show up across all different channels in different ways. So why is this important? Well, I think we all know the importance of omnipresent strategies and being available where your users are going to be interacting with your product. But an interesting stat that I found here is especially, well, how do we now use AI to be able to help us create more of a multimodal strategy, for example, for mobile? 54% of most website traffic actually comes from mobile. And users are about 40% more likely to impulse purchase on mobile than they are on desktop. So that's why it's really important as a great use case to see how can we use AI in order to be able to create that omnipresent strategy and create content that is multimodal. So let's talk about the skills that you might need. So whilst AI is great for content development, the real key here is actually, it's not about the AI. It's actually about you. It's about us. It's about the humans. Because yes, AI can help give us speed. It can help get us started quicker. But actually, some of the skills that are more important are things like brand messaging, creative thinking, content strategy. AI definitely has the opportunity to unlock lots of potentials, and it can lower production costs. Think about creating this event. Think about creating a learning topic, a webinar, a video, a demo. we now have the ability with AI to dramatically lower production costs. To put it into perspective, 15 billion images were created with AI between 2022 and 2023. That's a figure that is greater than the total number of photos on Shutterstock and equal to 1/3 of all of the images ever posted on Instagram. That's just crazy in terms of what AI can do. So, a question that I know sometimes AI for marketers can instill a little bit of fear is, how do we differentiate when all of a sudden everyone has the potential access to superpowers? Well, I believe, and I think with my team, that's where the human touch comes in. So I would say, think of these tools as helping you supercharge your efforts, build in that habit, help you get quick started, but then be able to bring your human touch. Now, let me give some examples of the ones that we're using on the right-hand side here at Udemy. So first of all, if you look at something like Notebook LM, which comes from Google, if you haven't already, I would strongly go and suggest that you take a look at that and see how you will be able to leverage it. So Notebook LM, if you haven't tried it, definitely try it. It gives you the ability to upload content and instantly create what sounds like a podcast. So if you want your content to have an omnipresent strategy and appear everywhere, but need different formats to entice, you can write a great white paper and almost instantly you can turn it into an auditory asset. Lumi is another great example. Lumi is actually a collection of over 20,000 free images made by AI creators to replace boring stock images. How many times when you're building presentations to pitch your company, to pitch your offering, to be able to speak to your team, do you go and you want an image? Maybe you don't have capacity to build it yourself, but you want something a bit more interesting. Well, Lumi is a great example of that. It really is one of the best examples of human and artificial intelligence coming together. So, as you're thinking about building your content strategy for yourself, for your business for 2025, think about, do you have those skills in brand messaging, creative thinking, content strategy? When you're pitching your services or your capabilities, talk about how you're using AI in order to supercharge what you're doing, but then bring that human touch. Now, another great example that I want to talk about when it comes to content strategy is creating an AI prompt repository. So when it comes to creating an AI prompt repository, to get the most of these tools, as we all know, you have to put in a bit of work too. So one suggestion that we've got is to help you scale and help you collaborate and learn is to create an AI prompt repository. So that as you build out better prompts, instead of rethinking every time, you can go back to what you know works, and then you can refine and tweak versus starting from scratch from the beginning. Now, the key element with prompts is definitely to ensure you give the AI as much context as possible to help refine the output as much as possible. So in the bottom here of the slide, you can see some of the most common prompt frameworks, whether it's role task format, whether it's role action steps context. And on the right-hand side, I've actually created an example of a prompt that I just put into ChatGPT. Again, this goes back to, how do we make ourselves more productive? So the example prompt that I put in was, assist with creating and managing email marketing campaigns. As a CMO, my role, give me an idea for the format and design of a monthly newsletter that I can send to subscribers who are learning leaders, giving it a task, in Fortune 500 companies, using a combination of paragraphs and bullets, and use emojis. Make it inspiring. So you can see there, I've given it the role, I've given it the task, I've given it some guidance as to the format, I've told it some things that are a little bit of a must for me, and then I've also given it some broad room to be able to create something for me. And here you can see the actual output of what we've created. Now, if I would have created this alone, maybe it would have taken me an hour or some searching on the internet, looking at past examples. What have I done? What do other people do? What are free templates? But this was created in maybe under 10 seconds. So now I can spend my time doing the hard work, actually completing the content, thinking about, well, what are the trends that I want to talk to learning leaders about? What are the insights that I want to share with them? It's given me a starter, it's given me a Kickstarter, it's done it in under 10 seconds. And now I can use the rest of those 50 minutes, instead of searching around for templates and different things, I can actually use it to put it where it matters most, getting the insights for the people that I want to connect with. Now, the next card in the deck is the Queen. The Queen is all about personalized customer experience. And in a world of AI, people expect versatility. People expect marketing teams to create that versatility, that personalization. The next area is all about that. So just like you refined your ICP, having a personalized message is key, because no one wants to feel like they're part of the generic masses. 80% of consumers are actually more likely to do business with a company that provides personalized experiences. And personalization can even boost your efficiency by up to 30%. So just think about that. 80% of consumers are more likely to do business with you if you're providing more personalization. So how do you do that at scale? What are some of the tools that are out there? What are some of the tools that you can use? So where AI really wins is in the ability to help you personalize and micro-personalize at scale, so you can create dynamic journeys. The shift has gone from predictable flows or nurtures to dynamic journeys that leverage the data in real time. But in order to do that well, there are still some fundamental skills that we would recommend and that I've learned from working with my team that you still need to build out. Top of which is being the almost lost art of journey mapping, so that you can really understand the touch points and the trigger points that are going to allow you to build a more customized journey. Now, the options here range from building this in terms of the example offerings, is you can build this into your marketing automation stack to create personalized pre-purchase experiences with tools like Intercom and Qualified. Or you can look at tools like Qualaroo, which give you a new way to survey customers and gather insights, not in a follow-up email, but in the moment on your site. So that's why being able to build out a journey map, being able to understand what are the touch points, where do you want to put your focus, where do you want to use AI, and then how are you going to do things like experiment design. We all do A/B testing all day, every day. But now with the real-time data that we've got coming in from AI, experiment design becomes a little bit more sophisticated. So building out that skill is really important. And then the last part is, of course, data analysis. What's the point in creating dynamic journeys if you're not going to be able to take a step back at the end of every week, every day, every month, and say, okay, what did we learn? What is triggering the customers to engage with us most? What's triggering conversion? Is it this path that we take them on, or is it path B that we're taking them on? So making sure you're learning the skills around journey mapping. Yes, we want to dive into the technology, but start with that core fundamental. Take your ICP, map it to your journey, think about experiment design. If you put the work in up front, you'll be able to yield a lot of results later on. And then ultimately, data analysis. How am I going to use this data to inform my next set of decisions? Now, the final area that I'll talk about is the Jack and the 10. So the Jack and the 10 represent predictive analytics and insights, and also performance tracking. So as we all know, the world of analytics has definitely evolved over time. We've gone from just having the data to maybe reactive, looking back in time, to now with AI and automation and big data, being able to do true predictive analytics, being able to look at things like campaign effectiveness, dynamic lead scoring, giving you that ability to plan ahead and make data-informed decisions. At the same time, if you think about that, you've got to really tie it back to your business goals. So what are your performance tracking and optimization? The 10 is the closer, right? It brings your hand together for the win. And AI is an area that you shouldn't forget about when you're thinking about performance tracking and reporting and optimization, because it can really help you to create a very dynamic conversation with the different stakeholders, whether that's your small business, whether that's your customers, whether that's you work in a B2B world and you want to have this engagement with your executives. It really is the last part that brings it all together. So, what are some of the key skills that you need to think about in this area in order to enable that proactive strategy? Well, in the spirit of threes, there are three. So just ask yourself, when you're looking at these here, we've got attribution modeling and forecasting. How are you going to use and how can you do attribution modeling and forecasting? How can you use AI in order to be able to better forecast what you want to spend, to better forecast how many leads are going to come in? And then take from that as well, data visualization. Being able to visualize complex data in meaningful ways is a really core skill that I think a lot of people sometimes overlook, especially if you are presenting to VCs, to partners, to executives. Data visualization is a must-have skill because often they have limited attention span. They want to see the big animal pictures, as people like to say. They want to see the data right away. Visualization is a great element to be able to do that. So just stop for a second and ask yourself, as you're thinking about using all of these AI tools, how are you actually going to report on the impact? If you are telling this to your team, if you are telling this to an executive, right? Think about how are you going to be able to report on the impact of AI and how it's making you more productive? So I want you to all ask yourselves, what use is it if I create great visualizations and analysis, but I can't really communicate the results? So the recommendation here is to think about and to learn how to tell stories through data, how to present data in a way that's compelling, where tools like ThoughtSpot, as an example, are great because they let you have natural language conversation with the AI, asking questions about trends and insights. This is an area that you can use ChatGPT for as well, Gemini Pro, Claude. You can put your data in there. You can ask it to summarize. You can ask it with a really great prompt to actually help you create some of those visualizations. So if I was to bring this all together and we want to leave a little bit of time to answer some questions, it's all about skills, skills, skills. So this is the skill. Think of this as the skill bingo board. When you're thinking about AI, the power of AI is not to replace what you do, but it's to enhance what you do. It's to get you to be more productive. It's so that you can have that better balance between inputs and outputs. So if you're thinking about what skills you want to build, data algorithms, data analysis, clustering, data visualization, brand messaging. Do you know how to tell a good story? Do you know how can you use AI to refine your brand messaging? Who are you targeting? Why are you targeting them? What's your differentiation? You can use AI today to get access to so much competitive intel. It's at your fingertips. Use it to your advantage. But if I had to pick one skill that I would recommend that everybody think about as you think about how AI is impacting the role of the marketer, it would definitely be around communication. Because whilst AI is great, an area where AI is lacking is that ability to give it the personal touch, the little quirks that come from you as individual marketers, the things that you've learned over time that are going to make your work more individual and more personalized. So yes, you likely have to invest in some of the AI tools, and definitely if you want to use AI to your advantage, but more importantly, you've got to build the right skills foundation. And those soft skills or human skills like connection and creative thinking, those are the key because those are what are going to help you differentiate yourself in the world of AI. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to invite Anton back And I'm just going to say, in the words of Mark Twain, and it's likely more advice for the AI skeptics out there, but get started, because AI isn't going anywhere. So I say join the race and definitely get ahead. With that, Anton, I'll welcome you back and see if we've got any questions.
Yeah, Genefa, definitely. We have questions in chat. I have much more questions that I didn't ask you during our podcast. So let's go through the questions in chat first. The first one is about customer journey. How do you think the customer journey is going, or it's already be changing due to the implementation of AI? And thank you for your time. We have a lot of comments that it was great presentations in the chat. What do you think about the customer journey changes?
Yeah, awesome. So I think the customer journey changes, the customer journey has not been linear for a long time. But I think now, even more so, for those of you who are only listening, you won't be able to see my hand movements, but the customer journey is definitely going up and down and up and down. And that's with the intro of AI. And I think the important part about the customer journey is spending more time on the upfront part of the customer journey, because that's where I think customers are using AI the most, is when they're doing their research, their consideration, and the awareness phases, when they're trying to refine what are the different offers that are available for me. I don't know about you, Anton, but when I'm thinking about a product, I go to Google, I go to Gemini, I go to Claude, I go to ChatGPT, I ask all of them what they think. Then I go to things like G2 and Trust Radius and Trustpilot. So I'm spending a lot more time in the upfront part of the journey. And that means more so than ever, when people are ready to purchase, they've probably already made an informed choice. So I think that's why it goes back to content is king. Content in the start of the journey is even more important.
Great, Genefa. Thank you. We are moving to the next questions. Thanks for the amazing speech. It's usually the normal start for the comments about your presentation. If you had to build a marketing team from scratch today, how many of those roles would be human and how many would be AI powered?
Oh, I love it. I love it. All of the roles would be AI powered. I think it wouldn't be about do I pick AI or do I pick human. I think it's more about the habit or mentality and the skills of the people that I would hire. So I'll give you a great example. One area is copy editing. We have a copy editing team here at Udemy who are wonderful. 100%, I expect them to be using AI, to get the kickstart, to get things started, to ideate with, to create that enablement. But I don't think that AI will replace them. So we have just deployed Writer as an AI-enabled content platform, and we've enabled that for all of the people within the marketing team, so that, again, they can spend less time doing the easy basic stuff and more time bringing their personality to the content. So for me, I think, I don't know if I would necessarily not hire roles because I would use AI, but I think I could actually make my team more productive.
Great. Let's move to the next question. It's definitely connected to this one. So AI won't replace digital specialist, or will?
I love it. So yeah, I don't think that AI is going to replace digital specialists, but it's definitely changing how digital specialists work, right? Again, I think, in the spirit of using a sort of metaphor, AI is like that engine, right? It can do a lot of the day-to-day tasks, the things like the data analysis or the automating tasks, but it still needs someone, a digital specialist, right, who's going to drive it, who's going to navigate it, who's going to steer it in the right way. So I'll give you an example, right? As I said, we use Writer here at Udemy, and Writer has a feature in there called the image analyzer. And every quarter, we do quarterly business reviews at Udemy. We sit with our executive staff, we talk to them about, hey, here's what's happening in the business, here's what's working, here's what's not. And a lot of time, myself included, I spend a lot of time looking at the charts in Tableau and saying, okay, what does it show? Are we going up? Are we going down? Are we staying? Now, with Image Analyzer, I can put that image of the chart into the AI tool, into Writer, within 10 seconds or less. It's given me all of the basic information about what's happening. Are we trending up? Are we trending down? Now I can spend my time on the why. And that means that I'm walking into that quarterly business review actually more informed, more empowered, because I've been given the gift of time to spend my time thinking about the why versus just the what. So I don't think that it's going to replace digital specialists. I think if a digital specialist doesn't necessarily engage with AI and see how they can incorporate it into their day-to-day, then they're going to have a challenge in the future world.
Why is really great question. Thank you, Genefa. We are moving to the next question. It's also about the customer journey. So what are the best practices using in AI in building customer journey? You shared a lot, but maybe you can summarize.
Yeah, so I think there are tools definitely out there that help you dynamically create customer journeys. And that's actually an area where I think it's the great piece is go back to, well, at the start of a customer journey, you need an ICP. Again, I was actually doing an exercise with my team a couple of months ago where I was looking at the ideal customer profile of a learning leader. I literally put it into ChatGPT. I think I created it in about 10 minutes. And then I could spend all the time doing the discussion. So I think in creating the customer journeys, there are two places. One, I think it can help you outline what are the stages of the customer journey, what are the problems that people would be caring about to iterate on. But then also, I think not just using AI, but AI and automation in general is using data to be able to actually inform what's the reality of your customer journey versus what you thought it was going to be. And doing that essentially difference and delta analysis between the two. That's an interesting place where you can do pretty cool customer journey analytics.
Great. I have the question, which maybe can be my own question. It's the question from Martinia, the guy who was using some AI formulas, matrix, etc. When I was creating my master diploma. Martina, she's maybe have some ideas how to check my thoughts. How important is it for marketer to understand the technical side of AI? And what resources would you recommend for learning? Thank you. What resources? I think that it will be some Udemy courses. But
Definitely. In the follow-up, we've got to send out some Udemy courses. There are a lot of them, yours included on there, Anton. So I think when it comes to the technical side of AI, I mean, I actually think it depends on which phase, right? Think of it in that pack of cards, right? If you are earlier on, maybe you're doing things like the content development, the audience segmentation. I don't actually think it's too important to understand the technical side of AI and the algorithms and the models and how large language models work and how inference work. I think as you're starting to get into things like the data analysis and being able to use those insights, it does become important. And why it becomes important is also because of the ethical reasons behind it. Because AI isn't perfect. AI is only good as the prompter. AI is only good as the creator in many ways. And so in order to ensure that you're not implementing things like bias, etc., I do think that understanding how the AI works, how the model works, how the model learns does become a little bit more important. So I think it depends on which part in the sort of AI marketing world you're using it. Some areas, not so much like the content development. Other areas like the analysis and analytics, for sure, I think it does become important to understand a little bit more of the technical side of AI.
We have advertising moment, right? The active bias is sharing that I bought a nice course on Udemy. It's about prompt engineering. So we have.
There you go. There you go. I like it. Yes.
This comment was not sponsored, Genefa. I have the question from myself. We were talking a lot about this with Prasad. We were talking about this in your interview, but maybe you will summarize for everyone. AI is definitely transforming many industries. But in your view, what is the most significant way AI is reshaping online education? Will AI kill traditional type of learning in online, or it will be also the same story as with digital marketers? It will not kill them, but it become a significant part. What do you think about AI and transformation of online education?
Yeah, so I actually think I would say that there are two parts to this. So I think it depends on what AI actually does. Is it does empower for sure. I do think it's going to transform education, because if you think about it now, access to information is better and easier than it ever has been. right? And if you look at how the different generations like to engage with content, you look at Gen Z, for example, who by 2030 are going to be 30% of the workplace. They love to engage with blog posts. They love to engage with short form videos, with images, with podcasts, as an example. And they don't like as much text-based posts or things like emails and newsletters. So in terms of the world of education, I think it's going to superpower it. At the upfront stage where people want to do micro learning, they want to maybe just tap into a skill, they want to learn something quick. How do I do something in Excel? How do I do a pivot table? How do I do percentage calculations? Or how do I write a good blog? I think for those types of learnings, 100%, people should be going to YouTube, ChatGPT, all of those different places. I think when people actually want to take a skill, they want to hone it, they want to develop it, and they want to turn it into a capability, that's where places like Udemy and more, I will say, intense learning still is going to reign. Because people, if you're actually going to learn a skill and apply it and turn it into a capability, then having a bit more in-depth learning, if you want to learn about Kafka, you want to learn about AWS, you can learn the high level of it. But if you actually want to be able to apply it in the real world in a practical way, it's pretty much that you're probably going to have to go in and spend a couple of hours actually learning it, maybe even doing some hands-on learning as well. When people do hands-on learning, that's when they retain almost 50% more of the knowledge. So I think it's definitely going to be in that upfront micro learning. I think there's an opportunity to leverage AI. But then I think in terms of the world of online learning, of actually being able to turn a skill into a capability, that's where people need a little bit more of that in-depth knowledge and experience.
Genefa, we have a lot of comments like, thank you, Genefa, great insight, it was great, and so on. And just maybe a few questions. Guys, if you really love Genefa's speech, put like to this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Genefa, a few more questions and we will let you go. The question from Hassan. Genefa, you highlighted the importance of data visualization with creating stories that engage people. How would you approach it and what would you focus on the most?
Yeah. So, and also thank you, Hassan, for the question. I also want to just call out Guy, gave a shout out to Perplexity. I got introduced to Perplexity a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't, it's legend. It's awesome because it gives you sources as well. So especially as you're building out, maybe you're a student, you're building out papers, you want your sources for your information. It takes it, ChatGPT and beyond, it gives you the sources, which is great. So coming back to the question from Hassan about data visualization with creating stories that engage people, I would actually, again, forget about AI for a second, forget about everything, go back to the basics of brand storytelling. And you know what is actually, I'm looking at my bookshelf up here, see, we're not going anywhere with traditional learning. Brand storytelling. There's a great book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And it's a great example in how you can then take it to data visualization. Because think of building a movie. When you think about building a movie, you think about a protagonist, you think about a hero, you think about the challenge that people are going to deal with. And you should think that way as well when you're thinking about how to tell a story with data. Okay, what's the evil part of the data, right? Is it the benchmark that you're not hitting? Right? What's the hero in the data? Is it your stat, or actually is your stat the sort of down on its luck character that maybe you need to be able to find a way to elevate that back up? So I know it sounds a little bit strange, but how I would focus on it most is I would take it back to making sure you're learning the things of brand storytelling and storytelling through data, just storytelling to start, and then how do you apply it to storytelling through data?
Genefa, I didn't want to ask you about tools, as I've asked a lot of questions during our podcast, but the guys did it for me. So the question about your presentation, the pictures with the card, they were amazing. What AI tool was used? Midjourney? And what
Gemini.
AI tools, Gemini. Okay, great. Yeah, I also love it.
Gemini Pro. Yeah, it was. I was like, come on, I can't come and do a presentation about AI and marketing and not create the images with Gen AI. Now, as you will see in some of the cards, like the 10 has only got 4 hearts on there as an example. So there's still a little few flaws, but yeah, Gemini Pro is what I use to create those.
Great. Let's see. Maybe we have one more last question. Yeah. It's a customer degree. What about the disadvantages and limitations with AI? What like problems you see of implementation AI in further? It's always about not just advantages. It's always about disadvantages also.
For sure.
Can you share the risks that you see in AI for yourself, for Udemy, for marketers? We understand that it won't take a job, but let's talk about the limitations.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are limitations. I mean, hey, one we just talked about, right? If you look at something like image creation, it's not perfect yet, right? There's still little, nuances, tweaks that you have to make to it. Someone with, two heads, etc. So I think there's still that need to tweak and refine it, but it's getting better every day, and it's pretty amazing what you can do with it. I think the other piece, as we've talked about, is bias, right? There's an inherent bias from the data that the AI is actually being trained on, right? So, and also the fact that it's still humans who are doing the prompts in a lot of cases. So I think that's something that you have to think about. It's very easy, like I talked about in that image analyzer. You put the image in, you get the quick analysis, but still taking the time to say, hang on, is this correct? Let me do a sanity check. So I think there's still some flaws with the sort of the creation, the generative piece of it. Also, as well, I think going back to why humans are so important, generative AI is great. And the more you prompt things and the more you build upon things, the better it can be. And it can sometimes be really, really groundbreaking, really original. But at the same time, it's still learning from itself in many ways, right? So I think, I talked about yesterday with someone, I was talking about the human factor of surprise. If we depend too much on AI to create the content, to create the images, everything at some point, it's not going to be the same, but it's going to have that same feeling. I mean, even now, I think when you read a blog post, like I use AI so much that I can tell. Right. If someone sent me something and they've done it with AI, like I can tell. And so I think that human surprise factor, I think, is really important. So I think the creativity, the bias in the data, the ethical and privacy concerns as well as some of the disadvantages. And then sometimes, listen, we all know AI can hallucinate. It doesn't always have the contextual understanding, especially if we're not maybe prompting it correctly. Or when I was talking about customer experience, some of the tools allow you to do things like a sentiment analysis. And, I'm British. I tend to be pretty sarcastic. Sometimes sarcasm can be interpreted as a negative sentiment, and then that sends you down a whole path. And how's that going to turn out? It was like, I wasn't being negative, I was just being sarcastic. So I think there are disadvantages, and that's why you still need the human in the loop.
Genefa, thank you. I was promising that it was last question, but I'm very good and kind moderator. So definitely the last one, Radioactive Bess is asking if I can ask a last question. What are the ethical problems of using AI? I have this topic, this lecture in all my AI courses on Udemy, but your view on this topic definitely will be valuable for the audience.
Yeah, so I think definitely we've talked about bias, the fact that, AI, it's leveraging the model that you build, the data that it's built on. I think the other challenge as well is that sometimes AI can be perceived as a bit of a black box, especially when you're, when you're getting into that data analysis and optimization phase of the house as well. Like, well, how is AI working? Like, how are the algorithms working? What's the logic that's behind it? And actually, that's a challenge, and that's why, again, human creativity and things like skills like creative thinking, critical thinking, analysis are really important. It's not AI related, but if you think about it from a dev world, a lot of the dev tools like Python, they abstract away a lot of the logic behind. And so when you come to do things like debugging and looking at issues, you'll find that some developers will actually struggle because they haven't necessarily, that they're not using the logic and the thinking. So I think there's the bias in the data, the fact that sometimes it's the black box to it. And then as well, I think I I love personalization. Personalization definitely is going to help you to win, I believe. But I think you have to think as a marketer, where's the line between personalization and being creepy? Right? So, knowing your audience, knowing what is going to trigger them to take the next step, to make the purchase, to convert, is really important. But then where does it become a bit of an invasion? Where does it become too much? So that's also some of the ethical things that I think we need to think about. And then there's the whole data privacy, which especially as, if you're thinking about operating in all countries now, but in particular in Europe, becomes really pertinent.
Genefa, I want to say thank you. When I published 3 years ago my first course on Udemy, I have no ideas that I will have a personal meet with its founder and that I will have possibilities to interview 2 times such a great person as you. So it was my pleasure to have you in our life. Thank you from the whole audience. Guys, put from 0 to 10 in chat. How did you love the Genefa's speech? 10 it's maybe maximum, but you can put 11, 12, 15. And Genefa, thank you. Have a great day and see you in our next events.
Thank you for having me, Anton. Have a great rest of the day. Take care, everybody.